So a major US strike hits the headlines, right? And it's just this whirlwind of confusing information. It pretty much always leaves us asking the same simple question.
Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack that. And the answer, believe it or not, comes down to two very different legal playbooks that a U.S. president can use to authorize force.
To really get what's happening, you have to know that a president doesn't just have one option. They have two completely different toolkits, and each one is governed by a totally distinct part of U.S. law.
Okay, first up, you've got Title 10. Now, this is the law that basically runs our traditional armed forces, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. You can think of it as the official public rulebook for military operations. Now, the key thing to get about Title 10 is that these actions are meant to be overt. That's just a fancy word for public. They're openly acknowledged, they follow a clear chain of command, and they are absolutely required to follow international laws of war, like the Geneva Conventions. The goal? It's usually pretty straightforward: win a military conflict. But then, on the complete other side of the coin, you've got the second playbook, Title 50. This is the one that governs the CIA, and it's designed for missions that happen, well, entirely in the shadows. Title 50 is the legal juice for all things covert, secret. There's a reason the CIA is sometimes called the president's hidden hand. The president authorizes these missions directly, the rules are incredibly flexible, and the number one goal, almost always, is deniability, the ability for the U.S. government to plausibly say, nope, wasn't us. So let's just put these side by side. Title 10 is the public, rule-bound sledgehammer of the military, and it's accountable to Congress. Title 50, on the other hand, is the secret, flexible scalpel of the CIA, where accountability flows directly and, most importantly, privately to the White House. Two very different tools for two very different jobs. But what happens when that clean line between the sledgehammer and the scalpel starts to disappear? Well, in recent years, especially in the fight against terror groups and other non-state actors, that line has gotten seriously blurry. It's created a whole new and really complicated reality. As one former CIA officer put it, we're literally seeing a merger of these two different playbooks. A totally new kind of strategy is being written, one that combines the secrecy and flexibility of the CIA with the raw firepower of the military. So how does this new hybrid strategy actually work? Well, it goes something like this. An operation gets the secret, flexible go-ahead of a Title 50 covert action, say a targeted strike on one specific leader. But then, it's the military's Title 10 forces that actually pulled a trigger. And here's the final twist. Instead of keeping it a secret, it gets announced to the world, just like a regular military op. Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. Why does any of this legal jargon actually matter? Well, it matters a lot because blurring these lines has this incredible domino effect across the globe. See, this new, blended approach creates enormous uncertainty. When you start picking and choosing rules from two different playbooks, you end up setting really dangerous precedents that, believe me, other countries are definitely watching. Experts warn this leads to a much more chaotic, much more unpredictable world. I mean, think about it. When the U.S. operates in this legal gray area, it basically gives a green light for other nations to do the same. And that can lead to a world where everyone feels justified in carrying out these kinds of strikes, which chips away at international law and, ironically, could end up making everyone less secure. At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. These legal frameworks, these two playbooks, were created to keep conflicts from just spiraling out of control. They create predictability. And when those clear lines get erased, the risk of a huge miscalculation just goes way, way up for everyone involved. And all of this leaves us with a really tough, provocative question for this new era we're in. When war and covert action totally merge together, it forces us to ask, in a world where the rules are just being rewritten on the fly, how can anyone really know what's coming next?